So BRICS, of course, the acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and now South Africa. Of course, that could be expanded. We'd be curious to know what the acronym will look like if we add a few more countries. Without a doubt, one of the biggest countries in the bloc is China, and their President Xi Jinping landing in South Africa yesterday for this three-day visit, which, of course, includes the BRICS Summit. Last night, he was meeting the South African president out on the tarmac. This morning as well, I understand, going to be meeting the president out at the Union buildings as well. Moloko Moloto is our reporter on that particular angle for today. Moloko, good morning to you as well. And let's not forget, it's not just as we find you out at the Union buildings as well. It's many, many decades now where it's been a talking point between South Africa and China. Good morning. You're looking rather snappy in your suit and tie out at the Union buildings.
Good morning, Gareth Edwards. Well, a very important day, not only here at the Union buildings. Of course, we know tomorrow or this afternoon, the commencement of the 15th BRICS Summit in Johannesburg, but here at the capital in Pretoria, South Africa hosting the Chinese President Xi Jinping, who is out of his country, China, this year for the second time. The first time he left his country this year was when he visited his neighbor, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, and he is only leaving his country, going overseas for the second time, coming to South Africa, being hosted here on a state visit. A very significant one if you look at the fact that China itself is now emerging from that punitive COVID-19 restriction. We know that they lifted those restrictions in December last year, but they have really been battling to surmount the economic downturn. Over the decades since they opened and reformed their economy in 1978, we know they have been growing on average at about 9%, and those numbers, economic growth, have really been going down. The issue of spiraling property crisis in China really making it difficult to a point that the governing or ruling Chinese Communist Party is even now saying that it wants to attract more capital investment into the country, dealing with issues of increasing youth unemployment. Equally so, in our country, we have our own issues. We have ESCOM, the load shedding crisis, but also we have the president who also is facing re-election here in South Africa next year, and obviously him hosting his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. They are looking to solidify this all-important diplomatic ties and relations between the Republic of South Africa and the People's Republic of China. We know this formal ties date back to 1996, when Nelson Mandela took a decision that he will sever ties with Taiwan, and he will establish the diplomatic ties with China because of its international status, but also because it was growing as an economic giant. And since the diplomatic ties were formalized on the 1st of January 1998 between South Africa and China, we have seen the economic relations really at that time were standing at about 1 billion rand. To date, Gareth, they are north of 500 billion rand. And of course, there are always suggestions that we are, because we are exporting our mineral resources as they are, gold, iron ore, to China, and we are not refining them. As much as we are making money out of that, however, we are also exporting jobs if we were refining these minerals here. Nonetheless, we are hoping to hear from the two leaders as to exactly how then do they intend to forge ahead in solidifying these relations going forward, as South Africa remains the biggest trading partner of China in Africa.
And just as I start letting you go, because I know it's going to be a very busy day for you, I can see they're still setting up behind you as well, Moloko. What time is this all expected to happen? We know both presidents will be in Sandton later, but the event that you're covering this morning, do we know what time that's expected to get underway?
Well, in terms of the program, Gareth, we are expecting that the official welcome ceremony will commence at 10:30 this morning, and obviously there will be a moment when the two leaders will have to go behind closed doors, where they will be carrying on with their discussions, and later on at 11:30 there's going to be what they call official talks report back. But also looking outside, there really isn't much hive of activity except the number of journalists who are here to obviously witness that. But there seem, because I can also see the personnel from the army, my understanding is that there's also going to be a 21-gun salute for the two leaders. But of course, Gareth, this is happening just a day after the South African Reserve Bank has issued out a report in which they sort of like clear President Cyril Ramaphosa in as far as the Phala saga is concerned. These are the issues that one way or the other are going to be clouding this particular event today, and even the BRICS Summit. But of course, we have seen the president saying he knows and welcomes that particular investigation. Importantly, the South African Reserve Bank has not released that particular report. In fact, they are saying they are not going to release it. Instead, they are just giving us the findings. But of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa, as the hosting so many heads of government, both from the African continent and, of course, the global south in general, he certainly is the man of the moment, and he will want to assert himself, trying to push South Africa as a key player in the global affairs. Of course, it is part of the BRICS. There are talks, as you have been talking about, to perhaps expand the BRICS, and we obviously, South Africa not being the biggest economy in Africa, we are trailing behind Nigeria and Egypt. It will be important, of course, to see how our role in the expanded BRICS is going to be, particularly in the African continent.
Moloko Moloto, very good point as well, because it is one of the two of the countries that are on the application list to enter BRICS as well, and that's why it's going to be such a big focus for South Africa. If they're able to get more African countries, can they lobby for them to include more African countries in BRICS as well? Moloko Moloto, thank you very much. So everything seemingly getting underway at around 10:30 this morning at the Union Buildings. Yes, of course, both Presidents Xi Jinping and Cyril Ramaphosa will be just down the road here in Sandton at the Sandton Convention Centre when the BRICS Summit gets underway proper a little bit later this afternoon.